Sorry.
Yes, I do. So we're going to be taking questions from the audience now. And so the first one is,
Do you want to come up, Binta?
when was the first time you personally felt like a black sheep?
First time I felt like a black sheep, probably when I was born. I felt like a black sheep. My mom is from Chile, my father is French, and so of course I didn't realize that was kind of weird. I spoke Spanish at home. They sent me to a kindergarten school, a French-American international school in San Francisco, so I was speaking French from kindergarten. And I never had my whole family at one dinner table. So the French side of my family and the Chilean side of my family never met at one Thanksgiving or anything like that. So I was kind of a black sheep from the get-go.
Okay, and have you always been comfortable being a black sheep?
Have I always been comfortable? I think so, yes. I was thinking about this one family. It's called Growing Up Without Borders. And it's a family of 3 girls, and of course 2 parents, and they travel around the world. And they have basically cultivated, these 3 girls are going to become serious black sheep, even though they're very blonde and blue-eyed. But the point is that they're going to be amazing individuals. And I think that parents can sometimes cultivate that in their children to make them feel at ease with being themselves. And I think backpacking, by the way, sleeping outside, all the wilderness stuff I've done has helped me as well.
Yeah, of course. And speaking of that, you have an extremely vast history in cross-country and cross-continent travel. What would you say was the most formative lesson or message you have taken away from your experiences?
I think the most formative thing is I've learned to live below my means. And I think that's something that a lot of Americans, and when you guys keep getting older, it's addictive. When you get more income, you spend more, right? And I think it's something that I've learned to be happy with so little. And that's what backpacking, camping lets you do. There you are, you're out in the wilderness, very simple life. To me, that has really paid off in a big way.
Yeah, of course. And what can students do now to become more of a black sheep in light of the hyper-competitive Silicon Valley environment?
I think the hyper-competitive Silicon Valley encourages you to be a black sheep, right? What's the unicorn? You guys all heard about the unicorn, right? Those are those tech companies that are really unique and stand out. So in our competitive environment, if you want to be in a mission, let me give you a quick tip. One of the reasons why I majored in religion when I went to Amherst College was because I knew I wanted to go to Harvard Business School. Sounds weird, right? I want to differentiate myself because people go to business school all major in economics and business and boring stuff like that. I wanted to make sure that when the board admissions officer is looking at his 10,000th application, he says, this whack job is actually a religion major. Wonder what he's doing. And then he'll look at me more closely. Oh, he's done some internships. He's worked in Silicon Valley, So all of a sudden you stand out from the crowd. So that's my tip to you. I have one other story. Sorry to take so long. But I have a friend of mine. He's one of my best friends. He went to Yale. Molecular biophysics and biochemistry major. You know what he did after that? He applied to the Yale Drama School. From there, he's done over almost 100 Hollywood movies, sound and music for 100 Hollywood movies. Molecular biophysics, biochemistry. And one last example from Amherst College, double major, English and theater, Harvard Medical School. Right? Black sheeps, they're all black sheeps. So that's why in a competitive place, you want to differentiate yourself. It's what's going to help you.
Yeah, definitely. And what is the most valuable lesson you have taken away from Harvard Business School?
It's to have fun. I mean, those guys come in so serious when they got into Harvard Business School. It's just like super competitive. They worry. Everybody joined a study group. I was, by the way, a black sheep. I was the only guy in the class of 800 who did not have a study group. I decided to study on my own, but everybody was really stressed out and worried. In the second year, because business school is 2 years, in the second year, everybody finally relaxed. The study groups disbanded and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, hey, Francis, we should have been more relaxed from the get-go. So when you're in school, getting good grades is important, but socializing, networking, making lifelong friendships, that is what's going to last you a lifetime. You're going to forget a lot of the things you read about, and the books are still going to be there. So when you're 45 years old and you want to pick up the book and find out about accounting, you can still do it. But you can't go back and forge those friendships. So do that when you're in school.
And how do you become a black sheep in a society where everyone wants to be a black sheep?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think everybody wants to be a black sheep. I think human nature is we want to conform. And so I kind of reject the notion that everybody wants to be a black sheep. And we can all be black sheeps in different ways. You can be an incredible ballerina. Somebody else can focus so much and do another activity quite differently. Be a chemist. So there's different ways that we can express our black sheepness. But don't worry about everybody being a black sheep. Believe me, that's not the way human society works. People conform. We are sheep. We are primates in the end. And primates like to be in groups and like to conform. That's what we are. So there will always be a market for black sheep out there.
Okay. And did you face any discrimination or pushback for being a black sheep, or did your family and peers support you for the most part?
You're always going to face resistance. Nothing like Binta or Rejoice faced. Nothing like that where you're going to have death threats. But being a black sheep in its nature is going to attract pushback. So that's the nature of the game. You have to psychologically get ready for that and be prepared and learn to stand firm. Remember Binta. Remember Rejoice. Remember my wife when you're in doubts and say, is my life as tough as hers? Was it? Do I have the balls or the clitoris to stand up to this? And if you do, you'll find the strength to conquer that pushback.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. What made you decide to travel around the country and the world?
I think a lot about death, believe it or not. Ever since I was a teenager, I think I'm obsessed with death. And what that does is, as a motivating thing, is I think to myself, I may only have a year left. I may only have 3 or 4 years left. I like that time horizon, 3-4 years, because it's not so urgent that you're going to die tomorrow or next week, but at the same time, you're not thinking that you're going to last for 20, 40, 50, 60 years, right? So I've decided to travel the world and give up a lot of things. I could have made a lot of money if I had followed the footsteps of my Harvard Business School classmates who went to Silicon Valley and did quite well. But instead, I decided, you know what? I might die at 50. And in fact, some of my classmates have already died. Some of my high school classmates died. Some of my college classmates have already died. And so I thought to myself, this is just my one shot. This is my one life. I asked myself, what would I do if I had $1 billion? At Harvard, they teach us how to get $1 billion. I was like, okay, great. You got $1 billion. Now what are you going to do? And I thought to myself, well, shit, I'm not going to be working here in Silicon Valley. I'm going to go out there and travel the world. And I said, well, why don't I just do that now? What am I waiting for? So when you're young, take those big risks now. Think about what you would do if you had $1 billion. Not how you would spend the money, but what would you do with your time? You wake up in the morning, and then what do you do? That's your passion. Whatever the answer to that is, that's your passion. And if it's a black sheep idea, crazy notion, who cares? Go for it.
Okay, that's all the questions we have time for. Thank you so much for coming today. Let's give another warm round of applause.